everybody? We are here for our daily hurricane update as we are following Hurricane Florence. Yes, as you've noticed, it has dropped down to Category 2, 105 miles per hour. I do have an explanation for this, somewhat, and I believe that this storm is currently going through an eyewall replacement cycle, and we can kind of see that here. You can see that defined eye early on in the chart, and then it kind of gets covered up, and this is around the time where it began to weaken. According to all the charts, which we are now 6, 7, and 8 days out now, just past that 5-day mark, this thing will regain its eye wall and will strengthen as it heads towards the East Coast. And to back that up, there is just article after article talking about how Hurricane Florence, the chances of it affecting the U.S. coast are rising dramatically. So for those of you that think that I'm trying to scare people or cause panic, that is the last thing I do. If you follow my channel, you know very well that that is not what I do on this channel. I show you daily data and the different outcomes based on that data. So as we watch these charts every day, this storm is getting closer and closer and closer to the U.S. coast. Now some of the models have all-out landfall going on, and we're going to check those out in a minute. This is our mimic chart right here. We can get a good idea of where Florence is. You can see it's making that northwestern movement, and then it begins to hook a little bit more of a western direction, and that's where we need to start watching out, because as this thing heads west, there's going to be a high pressure bubble up in the Atlantic Ocean that's going to keep this storm pressed down into this direction, possibly up into this direction. But nonetheless, every single major model right now has this thing making some sort of landfall between South Carolina and literally New Jersey, New York, and Long Island. So we're going to go through all those charts. We're going to verify all the information so there's no confusion like there was in my last video. A lot of people had a lot of criticism about why I am talking about a storm that is over 5 days out, and that is because these models are all beginning to agree that the storm will in fact make it to the U.S. coast. Now, of course, there is the chance that it might not, and I repeat that over and over again in videos, so I'm not sure what people or certain people are listening to that like to give me a hard time about that, but I go over every single possibility with data to show. And with the data we have right now, we're going to go through, once again, the CMC model, the Canadians. We're going to go through the GFS model, the Americans, and we're going to go through the European models. And again, these are 7 days out, at most 8 days out. So within the next 2 days, we're going to be within that 5-day period. And if this is still showing the same routes as far as making landfall in the U.S., then I guess that kind of silences those critics down below. For those of you down below defending me and the work, and all they have to do is listen to my words to understand that I talk about all different situations and I don't make predictions, I really appreciate that, to keep people in check down below that tend to not watch the entire video before commenting. So thank you for that. As we go through the Canadian model, this is what they have to say as of right now. As we move into September 11th, you see the storm is just over the Leeward Islands. It begins to gain strength again, as I believe the storm is currently going through an eyewall replacement cycle, as I showed you in this video, as you see the eye dissipate, and then it will regain strength again as it gets into a little warmer water. This could be due to a little bit of shear wind going on in the area, but nonetheless, all the charts are showing this storm recovering and then becoming another major hurricane as it approaches the East Coast. So the Canadian models have this thing coming right into North Carolina and then up into Virginia. That is a literal landfall. That is the Canadian models, and they are expecting that around the 13th going into the 14th. That is about 7 days away, so we're 2 days away from that 5-day outlook period. So you can see with your own eyes, this thing is going right into that area. as we switch to the GFS model. This is the one that concerns me the most because this is closer to the area I live in. We can back this up. The GFS model also has this storm regaining strength very rapidly, 932 after that eyewall replacement cycle, reforming itself, and then making a straight line all the way up to that pocket between North Carolina all the way to the Chesapeake Bay. And then as it moves up, we begin to see a possible landfall around Long Island. We have New Jersey in there, Rhode Island just above. We have, as I said, Long Island, and then Connecticut's in there. New York City's in there, and then the bottom parts of New Hampshire and Maine as well. So there is a second chart that is projecting this to make a landfall in the northeast as opposed to the Canadian model, as they project a landfall more to the south. And now finally, our other major chart we like to follow is the European chart, and they have basically a mix in the middle. They show this thing hooking up a little bit right above North Carolina into the Virginia area, and then rolling up the East Coast, basically mimicking the GFS. So again, guys, all these models are beginning to come together, and they're beginning to show very similar outcomes. And as we watch our spaghetti plots, we can see that this thing will be tracking west no matter what. It's just a matter of when it will be kicked out into the ocean. There are still some models that have this thing coming out and not even coming close to land, but every day we look at these models, we're seeing actual landfalls. We're seeing landfalls and then the storm coming back out into the ocean. So these are the things we need to keep an eye on, especially in these closing days as we approach that 5-day mark, where we're 5 days out from the storm doing what it's going to do. So Ventu Sky, I want to show you this really quick. This is the GFS version. I'm going to hit play here, and you can kind of get an idea of where this storm is going to roll right up into the northeast if it does. Keyword, if it does, for those of you that are listening to my videos and not just commenting. I'm going to hit play here, and you'll see what this thing wants to do. There you have it. It's moving up into the pocket. And then this is where things start getting interesting as we just pass Chesapeake Bay, get near the Philadelphia area, New Jersey, and then right up through Long Island. And that is where the data begins to end. It makes landfall right at the eastern tip, could be Montauk landfall, and then right underneath Connecticut, then Rhode Island, and then we're into Massachusetts, and that is when they begin to see this storm maybe move out this way or even hook back down into the Atlantic Ocean. So again, guys, here is another chart showing that this storm is projected to get dangerously close to the U.S. coast. And again, we are 7 days out, 8 days out, about 3 days away from that 5-day period. So 3 days from now, if we are seeing the same exact thing, then it's going to be seriously time to prepare for a possible major hurricane landfall. And that is just what we're dealing with, guys. That is why we do this every single day. We want to watch this data every day. We want to see the changes. We want to see what's affecting it around the storm. And we make educated guesses. We don't make predictions here. I've never once said that this hurricane is going to hit land or hit a specific area. I show you what the models show and the possibilities, and that's where we go from here. So right now, it looks to me like Florence is going through an eyewall replacement cycle, which means that more than likely, because it's in open water and in warm water, this eyewall will replace itself according to all the charts it does. As you can see with the pressure, right now on the 6th, it's about 1,002, so that is why it has dropped to a Category 2 storm. But as we move forward in time, you see that number drop back into the 900s, 983. And then we get to 975, 965. So that could be the remnants of an eyewall replacement cycle. So by the time we get to September 11th, which is 5 days away, this is a full-blown hurricane once again. So That is the data we have as of right now, guys. I am not going to begin to tell people to prepare, besides the fact maybe getting some extra water and supplies. If these models stay true and we do have a landfall anywhere from South Carolina up into the Northeast, we are certainly going to be dealing with power outages, storm surge, and that's all going to depend on the size of the storm as it gets there. Usually the relation between storm surge is also based on the pressure of the storm and the category that it's at. That usually gives you the amount of feet of storm surge we will be dealing with. And unfortunately, with this area of the U.S., there's a lot of canals and a lot of inlets that allow water to flow through. So very susceptible to flooding, just like we saw Gordon with this area down here with the 4 states meeting: Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida. A lot of little streams and gullies and inlets in here, and those tend to get flooded first, and then depending on how far in the storm goes, that will depend on how much of the other parts of the states are affected. So I wanted to make this a quicker video for you guys and just give you the quick update. Any major changes, you know, I will be right back here to show you. But we're approaching that 5-day period, guys, and then after that, we really need to start relying on these charts. And I use charts that a lot of other weather channels use that are calling for the same exact thing. And when you start getting mainstream media sites calling for East Coast having an increased chance of being hit by a hurricane, you got to take this stuff seriously. I know a lot of people don't trust these websites, but nonetheless, they are all agreeing with these spaghetti plots and the models that we show on a daily basis here. So that is the update for now, guys. We are dealing with a bunch of different things going on. We still have Tropical Depression Gordon dumping rain all over the central east part of the U.S. under the Great Lakes. We have Hurricane Florence as a Category 2. We have the 90% chance formation of Helena. And then we have yet a 60% chance of another storm to follow, which would be if it forms Hurricane Isaac. So again, conveyor belt city. We will be seeing this for the next couple weeks to come. Really quick for the Pacific side, Olivia, 120 miles an hour winds, Category 3. And then we have another big invest behind Olivia to worry about now. So again, I believe Norman will just pass over the big island of Hawaii. I can't say yes or no whether it will or not. I'm going based on the data. If anything, Olivia is going to be the threat to Hawaii, as it's still showing that it wants to kind of hook right into the main part of the island. It will weaken upon approach to the island according to the data, but we just got to wait and see. We are still pretty far out from this getting towards Hawaii. But then again, guys, it's not done yet for the Pacific Ocean. We have another major invest, 70% chance over 5 days. That is, it's looking like it's going to be another hurricane. And if Olivia can stay to the west, possibly this one can go over top and stay north and away from the Hawaiian Islands, and maybe move up in this area where it's a little bit cooler and die off. So that's what we're hoping for as of right now, guys. All right, once again, I hope everyone's just having a great day. That was video number 2 for the day. I will more than likely have a third out today to update you on Florence, as we are getting closer and closer to the east coast of the U.S. So thank you all so much for the comments below, defending certain people and just the support in general. Me and Caroline both appreciate it very much. We put a lot of work into these videos, and we try to give you all different points of view. We do not make predictions. We just show you what the data is showing us, so people can prepare as needed rather than waiting for local weather to tell them when to prepare. Hopefully people are learning things from these videos. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And for those of you that have not been getting the updates, I recommend you click the bell to the bottom of the videos next to my name, and that will give you the daily updates that I put out, as well as sub and like if you enjoy the content. That is also very important to us. The more people that get this information, the more people that are aware of what's going on around them. With that said, guys, I'm going to let you go. I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening, and we will talk very, very soon. Thank you all very much. Take care.